Hello, everyone, and welcome to the One Podcast. I am so excited about my guest today. Let me tell you a little bit about her. I want you to take a second. Imagine a world where suffering is not a given, where limitation is not reality, and where the unseen interference keeping humanity trapped in struggle is finally dissolved. My guest today is not just a visionary, she is a force, a phenomenon, a living transmission of what it means to embody energetic freedom and attune to the infinite field of possibility. I absolutely love this, and I cannot wait for you guys to get to know Judy Vee. So, Judy, tell us a little bit about your background and then how you got into what you're doing today, the calling, the pull into this, or the gift that it was. And then we'll go into detail about what you do.
Oh, let me take you on a journey. The starting point was a flight. Many years ago, one dark and stormy night from Dublin to London,
Uh-huh.
full moon, and I was on this aeroplane flying to London with nothing, knowing no one, uneducated in my early 20s. I will never forget. It's the first time I'd been in an airport, in an airplane, and I will never forget that full moon. The connection I had with that moon was extraordinary, and I knew somehow, somewhere, that it would be potent in my work. Not the moon as such, but the cosmic,
Ooh.
the
Okay.
universe. And that's what it represented for me. So I knew then. And I'll take you back to what led to that flight. From a very young age, from like a toddler until I escaped that night, I was locked up, abused and tortured and used as a slave, and uneducated, locked up from society. And when I was about, I think it was about 15, I had this extraordinary experience after a full night of torture. It had been going on for 12, 14 hours nonstop. And I remember walking into the bathroom, and I walked in like a piece of meat, only alive because my heart was beating. Felt like nothing, no purpose, I had nothing. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and for the first time in my entire life, I felt like I saw myself. And I looked into my eyes, and it was almost like I was reaching in. And I was reaching in, and I reached in down into myself, and I grasped something. I now know that was my soul, my essence. I didn't know what it was at the time. I was uneducated. I didn't know what was what. I could hardly read or write. And I forever, for a long time, for many years after that, I called it my something. And in that moment of grasping my something, I was transcended out of my body and I was outside. And I had this extraordinary sense of oneness with everything. And I was one with the wind, with the rain, with the trees, with the birds, with the smell of grass cutting somewhere in the distance. It was like a 7 o'clock in the morning, cold November morning in Dublin. And this oneness was just something so expansive, so extraordinary. And the next thing I remember feeling a sensation that words will never describe how potent it was. It just wrapped me in this sensation that was the most exquisite feeling that I can now only describe, and as close as I can ever get to it is unconditional love. And in that moment, I saw myself, this scrawny girl standing in front of the mirror, looking at herself. And in that moment, everything was perfect. I healed from everything that I had been through, everything I was going through, everything I was yet to go through. I knew, I understood the bigger picture. I could see it. I could see the whole field, everything. As I came back into my body, I remember stepping back and some thoughts coming through. And those thoughts coming through were like, I know I will escape.
Oh.
I know it. Because in that moment of the field, I knew, I sensed, I touched, I saw my life, love, prosperity, and adventure. They were the things I saw. At that time, I didn't call it prosperity, I called it luxury. I didn't have the word prosperity then, but the frequency is prosperity. And I knew it. And the thoughts coming through is I knew with certainty I would escape and I would have a life of love, luxury, and adventure. Knew it. And as I turned to walk out of the bathroom, the weird things that came through my head is I will escape and I will get a job and wait for it, considering in light of the beautiful, exquisite experience I just had, what came through is I would get a job in merchant banking, stockbroking, oil and gas, or shipping. I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
I knew what a
I
bank
don't even know
was,
what those are. Yeah.
but I didn't know what a merchant bank was. I didn't know what stockbroking was. I had no idea. Shipping, well, ships. I know the ships out there, but do I captain a ship? Do I
Yes.
drive a ship?
Yes.
What do I do? I had no idea. Remember, I hardly read or write at that time.
Yeah.
But in that moment, everything shifted and I was in bliss. No matter what happened, nothing and no one could take that from me. No one, nothing. And for the next 6 years, it took another 6 years before I escaped. For the next 6 years, I lived in that connection of my something, which was my connection to the infinite realms. And through that connection, I taught myself so much. I taught myself about money, about business, about economics, about how the economy works, how everything works. I taught myself everything. I taught myself to play violin. I taught myself to paint. I taught myself all sorts of things just from that connection to the universal wisdom, my something.
So do you mean, even though you couldn't actually physically experience it at that time, you could mentally gain knowledge from outside this realm?
I did actually physically experience it.
Oh, so you did actually
got a
get
violin.
Oh, okay, perfect. I just wanted to make
yeah.
sure I understood.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I literally got a violin because one of the abusers was my father. And he's like, no, like everyone, no one's all bad.
Yes.
So one of the things is he did get me a violin. He did get me books. He did get me stuff.
Okay, good.
And I taught myself how to do that stuff. But only after that moment where I stepped into more power.
Wow.
And I taught myself all these things. And then one night, in the middle of the night, again in November, I escaped. I had nothing. I knew nothing, knew no one, had nothing. Got on a flight to London from Dublin and landed on a Friday evening. And within 1 week, I had 2 job offers, one in shipping and one in oil and gas. And both earning a lot of money, nearly 6 figures. And that was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I took the job at the oil and gas. And I walked into the office and I saw this metal thing on the desk. And I had no idea what it was. Turns out it was a computer. And I managed, through the connection to the universal wisdom, to work the computer, do my job, report daily to the chairman in New York on positions that we were holding. And from there, my life just went from that moment.
Amazing. So amazing. The irony. I just watched a special a couple nights ago, a story that I remember hearing about, I guess 2 years old now. And I only related to it and paid attention to it because some of my family lives in Utah, but there was young children. And there was a family of 6, and the two youngest had been left with the mother and another woman had caused severe abuse and neglect to these 2 children. And the young boy at 11 or 12 escaped and managed to go knocking on the neighbor's door, asking for them to would he take him to the police station? And the homeowner, an elderly man, noticed duct tape on the child's wrists and feet. And I cannot stop thinking about it. And this was only 48 hours ago. But I went back and researched the story, and had that young boy not escaped, and I have no idea how he got out, and had the courage to go to the neighbor, the young girl was also starving to death. They had been severely abused and neglected. And the courage it must have taken for him to escape. And you don't have to share anything you don't want to share. But how was it that you got the courage? How did you know how to get yourself on a plane? Was there just over time you were able to come up with a plan? Or because the magical moment that you've told us about, where you start to recognize your worth and that there is something beyond this, and you connect to that, and it gives you this dream and this ability, I have no doubt. I think it would be challenging for people that are in these types of situations to maybe come across this YouTube or this podcast, but I would hope, or someone who has experienced that but hasn't quite connected to their soul and knowing that it can get better. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to do that.
So there's a few things here. I have a very unconventional perspective, this narrative.
Yes.
All right. That's the basis of all and everything that I do.
I love this.
So how did it happen to me? And I always say is that I'm not a unicorn. We all have that, and we can connect to that at any time. So what happened for me was complete surrender, utter, total, complete surrender. Not surrendering, giving up, giving in, giving up, resigning, not that type of surrender, but a complete surrender to what is this? What is this all about? It's a connection. It was a surrender to a bigger perception, an expansion into a bigger connection. It wasn't, I had no language for it.
Yeah.
I just let go and complete surrender. And I believe that it had been happening over a period of time. I was just surrendering more. The more I was feeling like just piece of meat, the more I was surrendering and losing attachment to that. Okay.
Yeah.
And just losing attachment to the suffering, because one of the things that we are literally programmed to suffer.
Yep.
Since we started deifying suffering 5,000 years ago, it is so programmed into us that we believe pain and suffering are a symbiotic relationship, and they're not. That's a false construct. Yes. And I did not allow myself to, when I was like feeling like that piece of it, I was observing it. I was not entangling with it. I was not suffering it. So I surrendered. And that is when you surrender and let go of the meaning of everything that you think is and isn't. And you just connect to the bigger, the oneness that you are, the truth that you are. All this is just morphing matter in different shapes and sizes to the true essence of yourself. And that's when you connect to the oneness, the one that you are, the all that is. Anything, you are the one that all that is. So when you're in that place, you have infinite wisdom that comes through. And as I always say, our first language is awareness. It is not the language that we speak, because our body cannot perceive itself, our mind cannot perceive itself, even consciousness cannot perceive itself. We can only perceive through awareness. And when you are in the essence of awareness, when you're moving on that awareness, you are the ultimate receiver.
Yes. Yes.
And you don't need a plan. I did not have a plan. I moved, and I moved guided by the greater wisdom of infiniteness, of the one of all that I am. And that's how I've always created. I've created the most illogical, life-defying things in my life since I've escaped. Things that make no sense, with no education. Like over and over again, I've done it from the same place.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I can feel as you're talking, this is going to be one of those that people will need to rewind and listen again, and rewind and listen again, or watch again, because you have such a depth and an understanding. I think most people understand, okay, there's something more to me. There's definitely a soul, and there's definitely something bigger than me. But being able to really, truly comprehend that connection and the oneness, I think, is a little foreign to a lot of people. And that trust, I can even say in being growing up religious and being spiritual, there's still for me, I've never had the types of really miraculous connected experience. I've had great experiences, but never to the same depth, which there's no comparison.
Mm.
But I love that you're the living manifestation of what's possible. And for those that have never felt it or haven't quite gotten there yet, I also think it's so good to realize you're on that path and it's always there, it's always accessible. It's just how do you personally, how does each person who hears or sees this start to really connect with, okay, I am separate from the current circumstances, both outside of me and affecting this physical body. I'm definitely more than this. And then the starting to connect with that, the love that is available. But I know for some people, even thinking, is there love available for me? I don't know if I've experienced love, but I think what you were saying, just being open to the awareness that is more, and then it leads into a surrender. But I think even just that awareness that there's more opens you to the connection. I think for some people, they might struggle with the word surrender, misunderstanding. So I was really glad you clarified exactly what you mean by that. This is so powerful for people who haven't even experienced severe abuse. I think it's powerful for any person who is listening or sees this to recognize no matter how good it's been or how terrible it's been, where you're sitting right now in this moment has the potential to be even more incredible.
So let me give you an example
Yes.
of a more, maybe more relatable,
Yeah.
commonplace, right? So before I go there, the one thing though, in terms of one of my unconventional perspectives, okay,
Mm-hmm.
is one of my many
I
unconventional,
love these. I love these. Mm-hmm.
is that the trauma we experience is not the event, it's the narrative and meaning we put it to it. Okay. So there's the thing, like, so for everything that we experience, that moment when we experience and we perceive that we have been conditioned to believe that's the thing. No, that's the moment you go inward.
Mm-hmm.
You have nothing to rely on, whether it's abuse, whether it's an accident, whether it's a loss, whatever it is, and it will be different for everybody. But
Yes.
in that moment, you go in because there's nothing to hold on to outside, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You go inward. You are forced to go inwards, and that connection that you get in that moment is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like the moment where you were blind and now you can see. Because you
Yes.
experience in that moment the all that is. You experience that you are not just this physical matter, bundle of matter. You're more than this. And it's the next moment, though, is a narrative comes in, the conditioning, the programming, what I call the energetic interference comes in. And now we apply a meaning to it. That's the trauma.
Yes.
Only that.
Yes. So
Only that is the trauma.
I love everything you're saying. Let's give an example or two or a recommendation for someone somewhat new at this, how you're saying, okay, what's going on? And then that's the moment you go inwards. How do people go inwards? Like for me, I remember trying to experience that. I was like, okay, do I meditate? Do I pray? Do I sit in
No,
silence?
no,
So these are
yeah,
natural, what we're
no.
told.
It's
Yes.
more the to do things we do, the more that's energetic interference.
Oh, I love
It's
this.
it's
Yes.
conditioning, it's program. The moment the mind's involved, the moment I got to do interference, too late. Interference and identities have hijacked your truth in that moment. Okay, so
Yes.
here's an example of how it played out for me. I got this job, amazing job. I was paid so much money, I didn't know what to do with it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like learning to live, I was learning to socialize, and I was learning all about this work thing, and it was very intriguing and interesting. But I didn't know how to play the political game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I didn't play in the sandpit with everyone else all nicely, right? I responded from my something. Okay.
Yes.
I spoke my something. I spoke my truth. I spoke truth. I didn't do all the gamey things in a corporate. Right? This was a
Mm-hmm.
corporate in the city of London. This is a girl who had no education.
Yes.
I didn't play in the sandpit nicely with everybody. And after about 10 months, I got fired. not because I couldn't do the work, but because I wouldn't play the game.
You
And I
didn't
was
know that.
handsomely paid to leave quietly. As
Yes.
I slipped out the front door, there was this collective sigh of relief. Oh, thank goodness she's gone, right? So I left and I walked out the door. In that moment, I get notice that I'm being fired. What people do in that moment is they now straight away go into story. I'm not good enough. Oh, no, what now? I've got no money. When am I going to get the next job? I'm not going to get another job. Blah, 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 blah. What's my neighbor's going to think? I'm going to lose my company car and all these things and this and this and this. But they go wild in that moment. For me, oh, okay, that's interesting. That was it. Walked out. What next? No meaning applied to it. It is what it is. No meaning, no judgment, no beliefs, nothing. I went within a week. I had another job in another oil and gas company doing something slightly different, equally paid. And after 10 months, I was fired again. Right?
Not funny, but yeah, the irony.
Same scenario.
Yes.
For the same reason, handsomely paid to leave, and when I slipped out the front door, collective sigh of relief. Oh, God, thank goodness she's gone. Again, oh, that's interesting. It happened 5 times.
So crazy.
5 times it happened. On the 5th time, I was now living in Cape Town. And I remember looking up at the mountain, the sun setting behind it, famous Table Mountain, the sun setting behind it, and saying, I'm not sure this is the thing, right? I think there's something else here.
I might need to do something else. There might be a different path.
And then I got an awareness, do your own thing.
Yes. Yes.
There's a thing. So you're open when you remove yourself from the story, remove yourself from the narrative, remove yourself from all the, I've got to go meditate, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Clear all that out.
Yes.
None of that matters. None of it matters.
Yes.
Connect back to your truth and obliterate any aligning and agreeing, resisting and reacting, judging, defending, any of that garbage, obliterate it from your field, and what is left but your truth and your connection, and you allow infinite possibilities to come through, and they will not come through in your mind. They will come through. Your body is your most precious gift. Your body will show you.
Ooh, I can feel that. I want to talk more about that. I felt that when you said it. So for people who don't really understand like surrender, it is if you've never practiced, if you don't even know how to do this, I don't even know where to start, just taking the time to slow your brain down, to remove what we're thinking, what we're creating of everything, the meanings that we've put behind things, the things that we're overthinking, just taking that away. And for people who don't know how to do that, what you just said is the first step. To really sit in your body. Okay, I'm going to stop thinking about everything. I'm going to quiet and sit. And I think the more appreciation you have for your body, the easier to just literally, I can't help myself when you tell stories. I want to touch my heart and that I feel my own heart beating. If that has to be the first step for someone listening or watching, even just taking your hand and putting it on your heart and feeling the slowness of that heartbeat, that can calm you. Your heart keeps you alive. That can calm you. Let it be the calming. And then as you go, breathing into, and it doesn't have to be this formal breath, just taking a second. I'm going to feel my heart. I don't have to tell myself stories. I'm going to be okay. Oh, I'm okay. And relaxing. And I think the more you can relax and quiet that noise, then it does exactly what you're talking about. It gets you connected and you can start to feel and hear and really connect, right? So talk more about expand on what you meant by your body is your greatest gift. I want people to hear this, especially the people that struggle with not appreciating your body, being disappointed with your body, because this is a huge thing for people. Your body is your greatest gift. Talk more in your unconventional ways.
Your body is a cosmic receiver. Your body is the part that guides us. Now, in my model of the world, we have what I call the trilogy of being, okay, which is body, being, and planet. And when that's harmonized, we are connected. We are receiving infinite wisdom all the time, and we have the capacity, we are the frequency to move in that awareness, right? But it's from the body. We have, to quote Einstein, promoted the mind or to that of master and forgotten the sacred gift of intuition. Now, my model of the world is a bit different to that, but I won't go into that right now. That's a lot of that content's in my PhD, which I'm finalizing. We have promoted the mind to that of master. So we're guided by mind. Thoughts are nothing but interference. They're not you, not yours. They're corrupted. They're corrupted because we have bought into a number of narratives. We bought into the concept of identities, which has been perpetuated by Freud, and the construct of ego, which is false. And that has perpetuated the chaos that we're living, and the personal development world has amplified that somewhat. So we're constantly trying to fix ego, which is nothing but interference energies. And this is why people struggle to connect to the body.
Interesting.
Because the mind overrides everything, and the mind is interference. Our mind is great when we are activating the most modern part of our brain, the full brain, the tele self-line. When we're activating that part of our brain, that is great, because that's the part that the body can work with. But 99.9% of the time, we're working from the oldest part of our brain, the brain of survival, brain of lack. And that's separate to body. That body doesn't understand that. Body responds to that part of the brain because it doesn't know the difference between information coming from awareness or information coming from the oldest part of our brain. So it's responding.
Yes.
So if the mind is saying lack, survival, suffer, the body will go lack, survival, suffer. So you shut the receiver of the body down. You shut its ability to be the receiver, to guide you. It is your connection to the infinite realms, not your brain, not your mind. Yeah. What I always say, when we move on awareness, we move, we do the thing, we say the thing, we create the thing without plan, without thinking, without just on pure foresight and insight, using the newest part of our brain. And when we do that, we create magic and miracles. And only after that does it now come into our mind as thought. That's why you go back and you think, how did I know that? Why did I say that? How did I know to say that? How did I know? Just one thought, one thing, and I created this. How? That's when you know you've moved on awareness. When afterwards you're thinking, how did I do that? And then you're trying to replicate that from the mind rather than surrendering and allowing body to be the cosmic receiver to allow you to move on awareness.
Oh, I love that.
So we have those moments. We all have those moments where we've created the most extraordinary thing, a great relationship, a great job, a great thing, a great business, whatever it is, a great client, whatever it is. We've created that in that moment by moving on awareness. And you think, how did I do that? So flowful, so graceful, so beautiful. And now you're starting to try and figure out with your mind.
So interesting. And I've always had a different twist on intuition. So to me, it was when I get an intuitive thought, it doesn't just come to my head. It is something I feel throughout. So I always tell people I'm trying to get you reconnected to your intuition, but not these thoughts.
Oh,
that knowing. And so I think you're exactly right. People can look back. Anyone who's hearing this can look back at these special moments in life where you've had that intuitive knowing in your body, you act on it. And that's the one podcast, is being the one, but it also is about that one action step that you took that was this intuitive move now, this is the right thing to do. That one instance where something came through you to say to someone. There's these moments in time. You are consistently always the one. There are things that you're gifted in doing in this life. There's things that are supposed to come through you. And then there's also moments in time that we show up for. So for someone that's just beginning with this, trusting in your body, getting to know your body, how does that surrender start? Or how do you recommend people really learning to feel that?
Here's the thing. One of the challenges that we have because of the programming that we've experienced and the conditioning, the narratives, is that We literally, to quote David Hawkins, have 1/10,000th of a second of our own truth that
Wow.
comes through before he has a different, his next part is different, but my part now is before interference energies hijack that. One ten
1/10,000th
thousandth of a second. So the more identities we have, the more of those identities are fighting to claim authorship of that. And the moment an identity has claimed authorship of it, you're now in service to that identity. You're no longer your truth essence.
Ooh, that is, I hope people really listen to that. You have 1/10,000th of a second to connect to that truth, to hear that truth, to feel that truth before one of our many identities quickly steps in as fast as possible. And the second that one does, that's where we go. That's where we connect. That's where we're focused. And that's where we're acting from. And so, how do we increase our ability to connect to that 1/10,000th of a second through the
By
body?
clearing the energetic interference and our attachment to the identities, which is what I do.
So that is how you created your work. I know it's really hard to describe what you do. So tell us a little bit about how you ended up creating this. And then if you can, share a little bit about what you do or how it helps people so they get this. People are going to need to come and find you. This is for sure.
I realized many years ago that what my number one value was being empowered, because I'd been overpowered, right?
Yes.
Your number one value will always come from a void. All right. And then, so I realized that that was my value. And then the ripple effect of my number one value of being empowered is that I love to empower others. And no matter what I did, no matter how many jobs I had, one of the issues that the bosses had was that my focus was on empowering others rather than playing in the sandpit. Okay. And that's not what people want to do in corporates, like in the hierarchy.
Yes.
Yeah. So
stay where you belong. Keep going.
Yes. So it was very plain that my journey was, my essence is, that's the expression of my essence, is being empowered on deeper, more potent, more deeper, profound levels of empowerment, and having the ripple effect of that empowering others. And then I went into many different industries and I created many different businesses with a ripple effect of empowering others. And then only about a number of years ago, I started doing it working with people. And I was working with people and getting great success in getting them to understand that the trauma or the perceptions, their feelings, their beliefs, they're not theirs, it's not yours. And I was still not being able to articulate the fullness of it until I had a near death a couple of years ago. And the message that came through for me was, okay, if this is as far as you're going, this is your job done. And I knew I needed to go deeper. So I spent months going deeper and deeper. And this is what came out about 3 or 4 years ago now. This is this clarity now that has come out, that it's okay to speak this because it is highly unconventional. I'm challenging all the norms, norm narratives and all that. But people who work with me instantaneously shift. And there's no mistake in that.
Yes.
Yeah,
and it's unconventional, but it's so needed. And the right people that are ready will find that, will connect with that. And they're searching for it right now. There are so many things I was feeling as you were talking. I really want people to think about this, that your number one value was to be empowered. And you said that, I had to write it down. I'm inviting everyone who hears this, when you're done with this, I want you to sit for a second and ask yourself, what is my number one value? What do I feel that? What inside me? And feel for the answer, not think for the answer. But when you ask yourself that, what is my number one value?
Can I expand on that, Lisa?
Yes, I would love for you to. Yes.
Okay. We are always living our number one value. Not. Right? We are always living our number one value. Everyone on this planet is living their number one value. Because we're infinite energy, that is the most potent energy that there is. There is no amount of interference that can stop that. No amount of programming or conditioning that can stop that.
Yes.
But the challenge here, and this is again part of my unconventional perspective, is the challenge is what is driving that value?
Interesting. Oh, yes.
Is it an identity that's driving that value? In other words, the expression of it, the actualizing of it, the experience of it is in service to an identity or an interference energy?
Okay.
Or is it from your most powerful, potent, authentic truth? Because here's the thing, we're always living our number one value, but yet we still feel tired, overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, lack, survival, fear, jealousy, guilt, shame. We still feel all that because it's coming from the place of interference, but we're still living the value, but it's not the expression of it. It's not our truth. So look at what your life is. You're living your value. And the reason why people feel dissatisfied, unhappy, this is not it, this is not my life, is because the expression of it is not in their truth. And also it is limited, it's constricted, it has to fit in with the confines of that identity structure, and therefore it's not free and open to infinite possibilities of more.
Ooh, I love this. So people who are listening right now and are like, I have no idea what my number one value is, they can discover or recognize I was looking for the right word. They can recognize their number one value just by observing their life.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And the expression of it may not be, it's not the value that's the problem, it's the expression of it.
Yes. And I can totally feel that. So in other words, it would be, you can recognize what your number one value is, but if you're feeling lack and stress and sadness and frustration, you're still living that number one value. You're just living it from one of your identities. There's no escaping the number one value. It's just, is it coming from total pure awareness and surrender of who you are, which I loved how you said, with like the freedom to express it, or is it coming from an identity I've created that now I'm trying to squish and mold it into that?
Yes.
So good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love this. Obviously, people need to come and find you to see how we can remove behaving from the identity we've given ourselves. I love that you see things so differently. Would you say in the service that you do with people, it is to help them to clear out all of the identities and the stories that they've told themselves and just live from the pure essence?
Yeah. So what I do is how I see it is that I activate or I switch people on to awareness of where the interference energies and where the identities and all the programming and conditioning is showing up in their life. I do their initial clearings of embodied interference because I'm able to clear the programming to suffer in people as well. That literally is energy that's caught up in the body and the nervous system, and we clear that energy out. Your body is such a miracle. It's responsive, it wants homeostasis, it is designed to regenerate, not decay. It is the most exquisite gift that we have.
Yes.
So I clear out the energetic interference, the programming of suffering, and the interference that is sapping your life force energy and sapping the control, sapping your ability to have control and therefore use free will. And then what I do is activate people to being able to clear themselves, stay clear, identify interference, identify when they're stepping into an identity. And the more they do this, the more the layers get peeled away. They increase vitality, health, joy, peace, happiness, relationships improve, money improves, business improves. The ripple effect of how they touch those around them, they're like, parents are clearing their children of stuff that they would be medicated for, all sorts of things that are happening. And And the idea behind it is that you live the truth of your essence. Just peel away, because we're always here. We're always connected. We are the one, we are the all that is. Nothing can ever take that away. And something important to understand and remember, that there is no mortal challenge, no mortal energy, no mortal interference, no identity, nothing that is more powerful than you, because you are the all that is, period. End of story. And my work is getting you back to your authentic, energetic blueprint, that blueprint that was the moment you took your first breath. That's the blueprint of your essence, and that's what you get to live. And you get to live that like a phoenix rising when you clear out all of the programs, all the identities, and everything that's not you, not yours.
Yes. And it reminded me, I was going backwards as you were talking, because you had said this early on, we are all programmed to suffer. And I want to expand on that, because even you think suffering, you think physical pain, hunger, but suffering can be as simple as not believing in yourself, thinking the world is working against you, lack, someone doesn't like you. Suffering comes in so many forms.
Yeah.
And
It comes,
yes.
sorry.
Oh no. And like you're saying, the minute you start thinking suffering, your body responds to that and holds that. It is so vital that we do recognize how many things we have created as levels of suffering that are stuck. And then the second thing that I loved that you said is that your body is designed to rejuvenate, not decay. I think you might have used
Regenerate. It's designed to regenerate.
Regenerate.
And this is scientifically proven. This is not woo-woo,
Yes.
okay? This
Yes.
is physics. This is
Yep.
biology. Our body is designed to regenerate, not decay.
Yes.
That's a program.
Hear that, because we are consistently bombarded with aging. This happens and this happens and this falls apart. And I remember when I turned 50, I started thinking I could look at 50 differently. I could look at 51. What if I reverse aging? What if my body is actually loving getting older? What if everything continues to get better? You can look at the science, at how often your skin is rejuvenating itself, how your organs rejuvenate itself. Everything is meant to continue. You cut your skin and it heals itself. That's what it's meant to do. But I think there's not enough voices and reminders of that all the time. I want people to hear that.
But it's the same as the menopause symptoms. That's interference. That's just interference, right? Energetically, that can be cleared out. One shot. I've taken people 10 out of 10 across all symptoms to nothing. No symptoms.
Ladies, hear that? So this is beautiful. And I am a believer that everything is energy. Everything is. So the more I was obsessing with, oh my gosh, I'm going to experience menopause. Then of course my body's okay. I guess I need to figure out what this thing is I'm supposed to be doing here. Menopause, what? Okay. So tell people how they can find you. What are your favorite social medias, all of that?
I'm more active on Facebook than anywhere else at the moment. Judy Vee, Attuned to Prosperity, or Judy Vee on Facebook.
And Attuned to Prosperity.
And a little bit on Instagram, Attuned to Judy Vee Prosperity. So
perfect. Yeah. And so do you do private one-on-one work? Do you do any sort of group things? Do you do free information? What's out there for people?
Well, if somebody would love to go and get an insight into the unconventional perspective I have on healing and wholeness, I do have a free webinar that you can check into on that.
Definitely.
And the unconventional perspective on healing. And then I do like masterclasses as well, cellular wisdom, activating the cellular intelligence, clearing it of energetic interference. And then one of the things that I love to work with people is that the work I had, the impact of clearing interference, has an instantaneous impact. It's instant. The people I have worked with over and over again said, I don't know what you did, but blah, 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 blah happened, right? And I was like, of course it happened because it was always there, right?
Yes.
Just cleared the interference. And But what I have found is that the longer people work with me, the more these interference layers they deconstruct and eliminate. So I've got this cosmic tribe, which is a growing movement of people. And collectively, what we are creating and the ripple effect of what we are creating is just extraordinary for themselves, for their families, for their parents, for their children, their grandchildren. It is extraordinary because what the effect of what we do is we transcend the entanglement of all duality and living in the higher frequencies, the highest frequency of truth. And in the highest frequency of truth is love, compassion, empathy, and gratitude. And that's the resonance that you get to live in when you're clearing away all of these layers. Therefore, the impact of that is that everywhere you look and every breath you take is the match of that in the world around you.
Oh,
and how would your life be when you're living that? How would your life be when you wake up in the morning knowing that there's more love, more joy, more wealth, more prosperity, more health, more vitality to match the essence of what you are expressing, no matter what?
before we wrap up, this kept coming up while you were talking to the ripple effect. And sometimes it's really hard to put ourselves first into the healing, to honoring, I should take care of myself first. And yet, every step we take into making sure that we are connected, we are surrendered, we are living our essence, there's a conscious and an unconscious, uncontrollable ripple effect from everything we do. The ripple effect of every thought you think and word that comes out of your mouth, and the way you treat people, and the energy of even your interactions, there's a ripple effect from that. And I think sometimes just even being aware that I cause a ripple everywhere I go. So if I can do something to elevate this ripple, how amazing would that be? How incredible it would be if I could be more of a conduit of love, more of a conduit of kindness and peace. And as I take care of myself by doing so, I'm naturally inviting everyone else to and gifting them that from me. Oh, I love this
That's
so
beautiful.
much.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So my favorite thing to ask everyone before we end is, sitting as the woman you are today and thinking about the woman that you're becoming, how would you end this sentence? I am the one who.
Creates a paradigm shift in the world by being more of who I am.
I totally agree. You are the one who you are the one who will change the world with your methods of unconventional thinking, unconventional living, because it's not up here.
Yeah.
Unconventional embodiment even is a better word, because you're not doing unconventional thinking. You've embodied a whole different way of unconventionality, if that's even a word. You're just
I
the
love that.
walking embodiment of unconventionality. And I do want to emphasize, it makes me, from the human perspective, it breaks my heart that you lived what you lived. And yet, I'm so grateful that you became and connected to who you are. And if that's what you had to go through, or if that's what you lived to become this, and to be so solid in what your gift is, and so brave in sharing that with the world, I'm very grateful for what you're doing and what you're sharing. And I hope that more people, I hope this spreads far and wide for years to come, so that people can come and feel and remove these energetic interferences and really come back to who they are. I think this is some of the most powerful work that could be done on the planet.
I agree with you. Thank you, Lisa. I do. I really appreciate the way you've summed that up so beautifully. Thank
Oh,
you.
such a pleasure. I'm so grateful for this. And I hope that you guys will go and find her, Judy Vee, Facebook, some Instagram, look for her. We'll put some links below. Such a pleasure. We'll see you guys again soon on the One Podcast.